Tori talk. Who got the tea? Who got the tea? Yeah. It's Tori talk. Who got the tea? She got the tea. Yeah. Anything you need to know. Tori talk. Just tune into the show. Tori talk.
For tuning in to this episode of Tori Talk. I am sitting here with Patrice Nichols, Miss PatriceLIVE. I'm so excited to speak with you today. Thank you so much for being on my show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've heard about you before.
Nice.
So, yes.
So I want to start with your gift. So
wow.
I spilled the tea. So I have some tea in a mug for you in there.
Oh, wow. This is so nice. Let me see this mug. Yes, thank you. This is so cute.
And just some green
Thank you. I am a tea drinker, so this is perfect. Thank you.
I'm going to put your shells in your throat.
Absolutely. Thank you. I saw this bag. I was like, I hope it's for me.
It is for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to get started with our game. And our first question is, who was your favorite person that you saw live?
I think to this day it would still be Prince. I think he was the first concert that I had ever attended, and I was I was at least in my 20s. I don't know why I had never gone to a concert before, but yeah, so Prince was amazing. I just remember at the end, he hadn't done Purple Rain, and so like they brought the lights up and everything, like it was the end of the show, and then everybody was like, these older women were just like, oh, what is going on, da, 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 da. And then finally the lights turned out and they were purple, and this one lady next to me, no lie, she was like, oh,
did she fall out?
Somewhat, yes, but it was just more of like, I knew he wasn't going to leave us and not do her song.
I mean,
he's hands down one of the best concerts I've been to.
Where did you see him?
It was here in DC. I guess this was back when it was still the Verizon Center. Don't have me lie to you, but I know it was the Verizon Center. I just don't know which name it was.
Yeah, it's been through a couple different iterations at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. So who would you love to collaborate with?
So my top 4, Diane Warren. She is one of the most amazing songwriters. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's written for pretty much everybody in terms of just these strong powerhouse ballads. Celine Dion, Beyonce, Toni Braxton. She wrote "Unbreak My Heart." I love CeeLo. I love T-Pain and The Dream. So those are my top 4.
I'm gonna say, no, for real, that's my baby.
Oh, that is. I mean, it's so many people. I think the reason why I always gravitate towards T-Pain, CeeLo, and what did I just say? CeeLo, Diane. They're all different. They're all different for me in terms of like, I feel like if I was to work with The Dream, he would give me. He has that sexiness that comes across in, how he delivers, just his songwriting alone. T-Pain has got that wild sort of, imagination, which would push me. And then CeeLo, again, the same, that wild, but kind of that southern flair, he would probably push me a lot. So people that will push me out of the box a little bit, that's why I gravitate towards them.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so what advice would you give your younger self?
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself, really?
Trust yourself. I like to say, I am more right than I would like to admit.
Oh, nice.
And not to say that I know everything. It's just normally your gut, that inner man or woman, usually is never wrong.
Never.
And you have to know how to tap into it a little bit, because sometimes insecurity will drive us. Like, we'll think like, oh, I'm so scared, so I won't do this because you're not dealing with whatever insecure or whatever insecurities that you have. But I would say 80 to 90% of the time, my gut is never really wrong. But I just would always second guess myself, because I didn't want to be right. Because my gut would be right about things that I didn't want to be right about. Like a guy I might be dating or a friend. You know, have you ever had that feeling where you are about to tell someone something and something says don't tell them, and then you do it anyway?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So
that's a note for you all, because I feel like that could definitely help some of you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think trust yourself is a big one.
Trust yourself. Yeah.
And last question I have for you in our game is, what is your favorite song of yours? I know it's easy to talk about your favorite song, but what is your favorite song?
I would say for right now, still, the 2 albums that I have out, Lover Friend Zone. It was actually written by one of my good friends who is an amazing artist in her own right. Like, I look up to her so much. Her name is Danielle Baylor. Danny wrote Lover Friend Zone, and I think I love it so much because there is a level of vulnerability and sexiness at the same time. It's like strength and vulnerability in the same song at the same time. And the song is pretty much about a woman professing her love to her friend. She's saying, take me out the friend zone. And so it's like so much power. Like, you have to be vulnerable to say that, right? Especially as a woman, because you want a guy to kind of pursue you. But then on the other side, it's still very sexy. Like, in my mind, when I heard this song, I was like, he's not going to reject her. He's going to feel like an idiot that he didn't pick up the vibes. And I had already mapped out what the video looked like. The first time I heard the song, that's how I know if a song gravitates towards me, if I can visually see what it would look like. And that song always sticks to me. Every time I hear the beginning of it, I'm just like, oh. So, yeah, it would be Lover Friend Zone from my Wonder Woman album.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna jump into your interview. So I always like to start and getting like your history. I'm like a history buff in a sense. But I'm a nerd. Yeah, I like that part. I would like to know, how would you say like young Patrice was for you? How was it growing up?
She was, so my daughter, I have a daughter, she's almost 6. And she's very sassy. She's got a lot of attitude. She's very confident. I call her the spicy version of me. So that is to say that as a little girl, I was very, I had a lot of personality. I was very fearless. I was the epitome of, what I believe is like a good blend. I grew up with a lot of men in my family, so I was very competitive. I've got scars to prove it. So I would want to play basketball and football with the boys, but then turn around and like put on a pretty dress and go and do a pageant. So I definitely had like this multifaceted type of personality. I was very confident, very strong, but I was like the tiniest one. So, that was that. But then, like I said, my daughter is like the spicier version of me in that sense. So very just confident and strong, and just, I was not afraid. One of the things, I don't even know if it was so much that I was just this amazing singer as a little kid. It was just more like I wasn't afraid. Other little kids would be like a little, and I would be like, oh, it's time. So, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So would you say that growing up with gospel impacted you, like in your life and your music?
Yeah, I mean, my grandfather, as many people know, he's a gospel singer, so he has accomplished a lot in the 50 plus years that he's been in the industry. So a lot of my family members are singers, great singers at that. And so, just growing up with that, and then of course just the spirituality, it definitely influenced me a lot.
Okay, nice. So we're gonna jump a little ahead in your life, and you were in a go-go band.
I was.
How was that? And for y'all who don't know, I mean, go-go is very, distinctive to our area.
Yes.
And Miss PatriceLIVE was in a band.
Well, it's funny because growing up in the DMV, I don't think that anyone that has reached a level of artistry has not tapped into some sort of level of go-go, just because it is the homegrown music. And being a vocalist, in order to kind of really learn about showmanship and actually make money on the scene, you're going to have to touch into some go-go to some level. I was actually in a few of them. I would never call them straight up go-go bands, but I think if you have 60 or 75% of most of the music with that drive, then you would consider that. So I used to sing with a band called Belladonna, which is an all-female go-go band, but they don't even like to call themselves go-go because they do more than that. But yeah, Belladonna. I was with another band called Beautiful Experience. Actually, my manager, he founded the band back in North Carolina, and they brought the band here, and we used to perform a lot on U Street. And then I was with an R&B band. They did a little bit, kind of boost. So I've sung with different bands, but the most profound will probably be Belladonna because of their popularity of being an all-female band in the area. So I got my chops doing that. I wasn't afraid, but go-go music is I don't like to play with things that I'm not well versed in, if that makes sense. And so I really had to learn a lot. I struggled at first because I wasn't used to being in a go-go band where it's call and response and the audience gives you, you know, your energy, and you've got to learn how to pace yourself through a show. I was used to being this big, you know, bright light that came out the gate blazing, but if you have a 2-hour show, you cannot do that. Even just learning about different facets of the go-go music and how to, you know, let the beat drive sometimes and not always come in and you know, feel what the audience is bringing and say, oh, okay, we need to get up out of this song. They're not feeling it. Those are things that you learn when you are doing live performances regularly. And they really, really work really hard. So as a result, I've always been a hard worker, but they took my level of endurance up a notch for sure. So I'm always grateful. And I actually just saw them last week and still have a great relationship with them.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So now, you know, you've like started and you like realized you want to do music. So now like PatriceLIVE, like how did this idea for you? Like I know it's kind of been like, I guess, always there, but what really made you want to take that step to go?
Yeah, it's always been, I mean, I was signed, like, I think I was like 14, signed again. I was in a girl group, so I've tried my hand at different things in terms of trying to get in more so into the pop R&B side, but things just never worked out, and so I got to that point where I was like, okay, maybe I'll just sing in a band, you know, on the weekends. Sometimes that'll scratch my itch, and then I'll just go on with my regular life. I was like a senior membership marketing manager at a trade association. So I had a degree, I have a degree in marketing, and I had pretty much the white picket fence life, you know, 2 kids, a husband, all that stuff. And then that itch would just not go away. And there were times, honestly, for a few years that I didn't like watch the Grammys or anything like that, because it would make me want to cry, because I would be like, I feel like I'm supposed to be there, but every time I think I'm there or supposed to get to another level, something would happen and block me. So I really actually I said a prayer and I said, God, please just take this desire for me to want to be a solo artist, take it away from me, because it was hurtful, you know. And then maybe a few weeks later, God, he didn't even actually speak to me. I know it was in me, but I was just like, I'm gonna try one more time, and I'm gonna give it my all. I could see little things that I could be doing better, and I identified them, and I was very honest with myself and saying, you need to grow here, you need to do this better, you need to be more organized here. And I said, okay, I'm gonna try one final time, and if it doesn't work, then at least I can walk away knowing that I tried.
Yes.
Because that's one of the biggest things. Sometimes it's not so much that the feat is so hard, it's that, you know, sometimes you have regret when you know you didn't give it your all. And that's across the board. That's relationships, friendships, jobs, degrees, whatever you want to call it. And I had to really be honest with myself and say, yes, you've been trying to do this for a long time, but have you been strategic? Have you thought about what you actually want to do? Have you been organized? Have you been practicing, you know?
Sure.
Great. Yeah, you can sing, but are you ready for a multi-city tour? Can your voice take that much, you know, strain? And the answers were like, no, you cannot. No, you have not practiced as much as you can. No, you have not been as organized. So when you know that kind of stuff, then you have to say, am I going to actually be honest enough to deal with that part of me, and then deal with it and then try again? So not surprisingly, I dealt with it, and I said, I'm going to try one more time. I know I look crazy. I have 2 kids. People are going to be like, you're not some 20-year-old, you know, teeny bopper anymore. I didn't care, and I'm further along now than I've been all of these years with 2 children and everything that I have going on. I'm more efficient now, still with room to grow, but I'm further along now than I've ever been in my entire life. So that's how you know that some things you just have to own it. And I own it now. Like, I own every part of it. Yes, I'm a mother, but yes, I am an international entertainer, and I don't apologize for it anymore. But I'm also very honest with myself in terms of what I need to do to make it happen.
Okay. Yeah. So you've launched. So let's talk about your album. So I love the name of your album. I want to know where they came from, because like Ghost of Boyfriend's Past is like so funny to me. My dad has this saying where he said you put them in the graveyard of the forgotten.
Yeah.
So it's like, they are gone.
Yeah.
So how did those come about?
So actually, Ghost of Boyfriend's Past, when I put that album out, I was still married at the time. And so I always like for artists to let their work reflect their lives, right? We have a lot of artists that do that and some that do not. So here I said, my whole idea and brand and coming out is that I'm this Wonder Woman. This is before the Wonder Woman album. I'm this Wonder Woman and I have all these things that I'm juggling, but I am a married woman. So how do I explain talking about this if I'm here? So I entitled the album Ghost of Boyfriend's Past based on the movie, that the Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. And so that way that for me, it wasn't that I was living a double life, that I was fully living where I was, but the music reflected where I used to be, if that makes sense. So that's where that album came from. And then some of those songs we had done a few years before. So, you know, they were relevant to that time when I was not, you know, when I was single. And then Wonder Woman came about, and Wonder Woman was very challenging because that happened in the midst of me actually going through divorce and breakup and all that. So some of those songs were not originally supposed to be on the album, but halfway through, that's how I was feeling. And so, but Wonder Woman actually, that was even before Ghost of Boyfriend's Past, because Wonder Woman was a song that I actually, a derivative of the song now, that I wrote years ago. I'm talking about, I think I was maybe 22. So this was years ago. I was in the studio in DC. I was working with some producers from New York, and they had this song come on. And I was like, this sounds like a female empowerment song. And so it was one of my close friends, Tiffany, and another girl in the studio. She was there with some other guys, and I was just like, what do you guys hear and see and feel? I'm very visual. When you hear this song, you think of a strong woman. And they started telling me stuff, and I was taking it in, and then I wrote the song in maybe 20 minutes. And I was talking all this shit about, like, I cook meals and close deals and da-da-da-da-da. None of that stuff I was doing. You know, that's how you know you can manifest things, because I was talking all this trash about stuff that I had not done yet, you know? But I just felt like this is what a Wonder Woman does. She cooks meals and closes deals, takes care of her man, loves her friends, is confident, walking down the street, and I just saw all these things. And that was years ago, and then transferred over to when the second album we were coming out with, and I was like, I'm ready now to launch Wonder Woman. And we reworked the song, so it's not the same song, but yeah, that's where it came from. I just felt like being a woman and pursuing your goals, but still managing and handling your responsibilities. Sometimes we feel like we have to choose one or the other, and we don't get the choice, right? I think when you have a calling on your life, whether it's to be a singer or an entertainer or have a podcast or anything that you have, you don't get, when you choose to make other decisions in life, like have children or you don't get to like throw your hands up and say, I'm not gonna pay my bills, I'm just gonna go and do my podcast, or I'm not gonna take care of my children, I'm just gonna go and sing. You don't get to do that. So now you're responsible for both. But when you do it and you do it well, you are a Wonder Woman, in fact. Not perfectly, because I don't believe in perfection. I just believe in excellence. There's a difference.
Very nice, very nice, and very true too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, because people always say something like, for the last time, Tori talked, not pay me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, PatriceLIVE, you introduced me with my government name. PatriceLIVE owes Patrice Nichols a whole hell of a lot of money. Let me tell you that. And she better pay her back every dime. Every dime.
Tax season, okay? You want all your money back.
Yeah.
So what would you say your creative process is? Because I know everyone goes through different things, but what do you say works well for you? I know you like try to, go off of your own experience. So what is your process?
So everything is about, it's not so much feeling. I'm very strategic, right? I have a degree in marketing, and I'm big on strategy. I love the visual of putting something together from top to bottom, or building what you want at the end and then building backwards. That's my big thing. So I always have to look at things in a strategic format, but the end result is always a mix of my creativity, right? So for instance, the Wonder Woman album, I had already been listening to different artists and thinking about what is inspiring me, what am I thinking about, what am I feeling. I love movies and TV. So people always shun people for watching TV. I don't care. I love TV. I watch a lot of TV. I have to, even when I'm working, I have to have some noise in the background. So I'll have like The Office, which is one of my favorite shows, The Office playing while I'm working. The visual, the art of storytelling, and I'm always big on, I always say, like, a lot of music is written with the idea to talk about going out to the club, falling in love, or heartbreak, right? Those are pretty much the three solid topics, right? So I say, but what do I listen to if I am, well, what do I listen to? So that, I'm sorry, that takes care, and gospel music, so it's 4. So I say, okay, so you listen to Being in Love on Friday or Saturday, you go out to the club Friday or Saturday, you go to church on Sunday. So that takes care of that. But what do you listen to Tuesday morning? What song do you listen to when you're not breaking up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, but you're pissed off at them? I like to talk about the things that I call like the in-between things that are not always resolved, because in real life, we're not like movies, right? Where everything is resolved within 27 minutes of a sitcom. Sure. It's not like that. And you go through a series of emotions, and a lot of times we don't have music that reflects those types of emotions. So a lot of my creativity comes from wanting to tell what was happening in between. Yes, I know I love my man, and yes, he did this, but what happened right here in the middle before we got to this place? And then after I have that creative thing with myself, then we put the strategy to it, and I work myself backwards.
Very nice. Yeah. So, Miss Wonder Woman, you have a Wonder Woman Foundation.
Yes.
And I'm so excited for you guys to hear about this. I love when people are doing things for the community and giving back. So please tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Sure. So the Wonder Woman Foundation is an initiative that I have started, and I'm still working on funding and everything like that. But the structure is to award scholarships to women in different walks of life. And we're not talking about the norm. You have a 3.5 GPA, you're in college, you're doing this. But each scholarship is named after a woman that's influenced me. One of them being like my maternal grandmother, Rosetta Thompson. So she was an entrepreneur, and she was a huge gospel promoter. And so the scholarship for that person would be an up-and-coming entrepreneur who needs help, and it might be a $10,000 grant that we get to help them open up another initiative. The same for me. So at one point, when I was finishing my degree, I went to school and then I went back. At one point, I already had my son, and I was pregnant with my daughter. The year that I graduated, I had my daughter in March, and I graduated in May. So at that time, I was about 8 or 9 months pregnant. I had a toddler. I was working a full-time job and taking 6 classes at a time. And one of the things that I thought about was like, gosh, you know, what if they had like a babysitting service here at the school, like from those 6 to 9 p.m. classes, where people could come in, bring their kids, the kids could do homework those 2 nights a week and have, you know, a meal or something like that. So that's the type of like initiative under the Wonder Woman Foundation. Is pretty much just providing support both financially and through resources for women who are trying to do extraordinary things with extraordinary circumstances.
Very true.
So we're still developing the rest of the program structure, because it's twofold. One of it, like I said, one part is just giving away these scholarships and grants to women for different parts of their lives, but then the other is creating smaller initiatives, like community initiatives. So going to the colleges, I would start with Louis State, where I graduated, and saying, hey, can we house an after hours, you know, daycare, and maybe the child care services or the students that are learning, you know, child care development can now get hours by doing an after hours program. You know,
it makes sense. Actually, get some on-job experience, but get some job
at school, get paid for it, and then you're helping others continuing education students who are coming to school after they go to work, so they don't have to go home or find a babysitter or spend as much money. So those are the types of things that I want to do with the Wonder Woman Foundation. But like I said, the scholarships are all named after I have to, you know, my grandmothers, my mother, any part of them that has impacted me. I try to highlight that. So like I said, my grandmother was an entrepreneur. My other grandmother, she was a nurse, and she was an OR nurse. So she had 5 kids. She had 5 boys, and she was going through college. Like, what things can we do for someone now, and how can we help them to achieve that goal so we make it easier? So,
yeah, I cannot wait for that to come out. And please let us know anyway.
Absolutely.
Help and support it, of course.
Sure.
And you mentioned your 2 kids. So I would wonder if they come to you like, Mom, I think I want to be a singer. I think I want to be in music. What advice would you give them?
Well, they're already.
Stage mom?
Listen, I don't know if I could. I am somewhat. My daughter is a dancer. My son, unbeknownst to some, he actually can sing. He's very shy. But, you know, I would encourage whatever they want to do. My biggest thing is accountability and excellence. And because that, to me, it doesn't matter if they want to be a doctor or an entertainer. They're going to have to be accountable to something and true to themselves. So I'm never going to sway them in any type of direction. Education is important to me. Not so much because it's what other people said, but I will say right now, part of what funds PatriceLIVE is me getting my degree so that I can work as a consultant and have my own schedule set so that I can pursue my goals.
Exactly.
That would not have happened had I not had a degree. The same with even the music industry, going to school and learning marketing. Like, how helpful is that? So yeah, exactly. Learning digital marketing. So those are all things that to me really contribute to the success of anyone. So as long as they are, as long as they pursue things with excellence and do their best, if they want to be a singer, by all means, don't embarrass me. But
be good.
Be good. But even still, no matter what they want to do, as long as they do their best and they pursue excellence, that's all I care about. So if they want to, I would say that. And also, you know, one of the things that I realize now in hindsight is, had I made it, so to speak, which I still have so far to go from where I want to be, but I appreciate it. But had I made it back when I was 19 or 20, I wouldn't be who I actually am now in terms of the mental and the spiritual realm. So I understand why I didn't. And then that's not even really the goal. Like, the goal is not to make it to flex on anybody. Really, my story is what actually is going to inspire people. One of the things that I always say is, I'm not so much an entertainer as much as I'm a vessel. People, I get to do the music because I like it, but that's not what is going to get people to gravitate towards me, and that's not even my purpose. It's just me enjoying the ride. I liken it to like going on a ride and God sending you to do what you need to do, and on the ride he says, I'll let you enjoy the ride. You can be an entertainer, and you'll be excited to be an entertainer, but really I'm sending you because I need people to hear about you being paralyzed. I need people to hear about you being sexually abused. I need people to see that you work really hard and that you have 2 children, so that when they see it, you activate the doctor that, you know, can cure it. You activate the woman who may be at home not doing what she's supposed to do. You activate something in her to say, if Patrice can do it, then I can do it. Not because Patrice is special, but just because she shared her story and I can see myself, so let me do it. That's the ultimate goal for me. And so I try to instill that into my children. The goal is not for us to be, oh, I do want to be wealthy. That's for another day. But outside of that, the goal is to actually inspire other people to do what they need to do. And who better to inspire than your own children? That's part of the reason why I went back to performing in the first place, because how could I really mold and shape them to pursue their goals and dreams if I could never tell them that I at least tried to do my own?
And speaking of live performances, Miss PatriceLIVE, what is your favorite part about performing live? Because I'm like, what I'm doing, like, I don't really have a stage fright thing. But it's like you said, you have to feel the energy of the crowd. Like, what is your favorite part about that?
I think it's when there's always this moment that happens for me at every performance, no matter how I'm feeling, where I feel, it's this euphoric feeling. It's very weird. I don't even know if I can explain it in the right way. There's this euphoric feeling that happens on stage when you are prepared and when the energy comes together. And there's a moment that I always have, it's for me, it's not even for anyone else, where I'm just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Usually it happens when someone sings the song back to me that they don't even know, that I teach them the song. Sometimes it's a new song that I added in the mix and I'm trying to see if it works out. Sometimes it's even when stuff goes wrong and I recover. Sometimes it's me not remembering what happened and then I look back at the video, I'm like, oh, you did that? But there's always, for every performance that I've had, even the worst performance, I mean, I've fallen on stage, I mean, anything that you could think of, it happened, sounding terrible, couldn't hear myself, whatever. But there's always a moment, and I know that it's always a blessing because it's the moment that reminds me why I'm doing it and why I need to continue. That moment, I live for that moment. And usually, if you ever go back into looking at old footage of me, you'll see that there's a moment that I just smile, but I'm not looking at anybody. I just feel what I need to feel, and then I keep going. That's the best part. Because I rehearse a lot. I'm what I call a rehearsed performer. You know, you have some singers who can go and just blaze a song without a thought. That's not me. No. I can sing, but I'm a rehearsed performer because there are so many different things going on. I'm entertaining the crowd, and sometimes I'm dancing, and, you know, we're trying new things, and it's just so much going on, so I call it, you know, rehearsed chaos. Like, I rehearse and I try to just lock into it so much. so that when I'm on stage, I can have free moments where I can say, hey, band, let's try this on stage, you know, and they're not nervous like, oh, shoot, what is she about to do? But ultimately, that euphoric moment that I have, it only lasts for 2 or 3 seconds. That's what it is. That's what I live for.
And you mentioned the fact that you do dance, because she does dance, guys. You do not know this, by the way. And I know that Gabby Odom,
yes,
G Crew's choreography,
yes.
I've been dancing with her for most of my life. Like,
yeah.
How is that practicing with that crazy
She's
woman?
Crazy, right?
She is
Let
rough.
me tell you something.
Wonderful, but rough.
Gabby is she's rough, but has been such a blessing to my life. I'm not talking about just what she has been able to do for me on a performance level. I consider her my friend, and what's weird is from the first day that I met her, I knew that she was a solid and genuine person. From the first day. It takes me a while, and I always let people start at 100 with me and then they work their way down. I didn't worry about that because she's so honest. She's not perfect, but she's just so honest and solid. And so also, because of that, she pulls me. We know when to pull and push. Sometimes she'll pull me a little bit. Sometimes I'll push back a little bit. I trust her, right?
Yes.
So literally, and she's so invested in me, so I'm so invested in her. We got a call the other day, someone asking me about someone that could help do with some dancing. You know, I'm happy to refer the business to her. I'm always like, but listen, I'm number one now. Don't get crazy.
Don't mess with my schedule.
Right. Well, not even just, you don't give, you give them greatness.
I don't give all my stuff.
You keep a little bit for me. But ultimately, I love the fact that I have the ability to help my friends and colleagues do what they do, even when it's for other people. That means that I'm winning as a leader. Yeah. As a leader, that is what leadership is about. It's not about holding people hostage and holding them back. It's about releasing them so that they can do what they do and share it with the rest of the world. Because what is the purpose of me being a leader if I have to lock you in and hold you here? And she is the example of that. She pushes me in a way, but she's patient enough with me. But she knows sometimes when I'm not here because I'm doing too much. She knows sometimes when I'm like, let me just give her a break. She knows, and I'm so grateful. And she has elevated not just the dancing, but just her eye for things has elevated my artistry to a different level because I'm already particular, and the areas that I'm not so much particular in, she's particular. So we cover all bases. Yep. And that's everybody on my team, my management. Everybody has their thing, right? And I'm just the center of this thing. The musicians, the same way. I can't tell you how to play. I just know what I want to hear. Then when I tell them what I want to hear, they take it to the next level in ways that I couldn't. I tell her usually when we have a new song, I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do this, and she'll say okay, and then she'll take those two things, deliver them, and then fill in the rest with her thing. I'm just the center of this, but everybody else, they keep me together because I couldn't do it without them. And Gabby is definitely an example of that for me.
Wonderful. Yeah. And Gabby, so what we did today for your interview, I actually put some questions of people saying, hey, let me know any feedback if you want to talk to
I'm scared.
So I have 2 questions, and the first one actually is from Gabby.
Okay. And
her question was, what would you say that your strengths and weaknesses are as an artist?
Sure. My strengths are just the ability to really own that no matter what, no matter whose fault or, whatever happens, the mic stand fell, whatever, it's always the ability to recover. Or the ability to be intuitive enough to know what's going on. There are times when I do certain things at some shows that I don't do at other shows because I recognize who I'm talking to. It doesn't take away from my artistry, and it doesn't make me a chameleon in different spaces, but it just allows me to be appropriate. We have a show, a very sexy show at Babylon one night, but the day before we have a show at the convention center with children for special needs. We ain't doing the same show. So that intuitiveness and just making adjustments and also being able to do it on the fly is a big thing. One of my strengths. My weaknesses, for sure, because I'm doing so much on stage, I have to, and we went back to the basics this year in terms of me strengthening vocally, strengthening dance-wise, even looking more, I look at footage a lot, but looking at footage and really critiquing myself to say, okay, yeah, you got off the stage too many times this time. I know you didn't want to interact with the crowd, but we need better visuals of you on the stage. You're short, so you can't be in the crowd all the time, even though that's what you want to do, because we lose you. And then what are the rest of the people out there looking at? Those are really technical things,
Yeah.
and so I'm back to the basics in terms of technicalities. Not over singing. I tend to do that because I get nervous if I can't hear myself, which a lot of singers do. We sing louder. So instead of me making the sound adjust back to me, I'll over sing and then tear my voice up, and then I have no voice towards the end. So it's just technical things that I'm learning and just staying solid where I am and letting other things gravitate towards me. I don't have to get off the stage so much because I feel like James Brown. I want to work when I'm on stage, right? People came to see me, or if they didn't come to see me, I want them to come back to see me. So I work hard, but it's like, you got it already. You don't have to work that hard. They will gravitate to you. Vocally, you don't have to over sing. You know, give yourself a break, because if not, you won't make it through the performance. Dance-wise, do what you can and do it well. So it's just bringing things back together and working a little smarter and not as hard as I've been working, because I already work really hard. I hope that made sense.
It definitely did make sense. I'm sure Gabby will be happy to know.
Yeah, she will.
And our last question from an Instagram viewer was, what was your hardest lesson learned in life? In your whole life, not even just like now, just in life.
And on season 2 of Tori. I would say my hardest, it's the same thing as what I would tell my younger self. It's when you don't trust yourself, you know, you cannot change people, and you cannot go back in time and change situations. So you just have to trust yourself, and when you don't, you got to pay the consequence for that. There is a consequence when you don't listen, because to me, your inner man and your conscience, basically, to me, that's God whispering to you. I always say that, and that's God whispering to you ahead of the time. It's those times when I'll never forget. I was 19. I was going to a club, dressed up, everything. Me and my girlfriend getting ready to walk in, and something said, "Don't go in there." And I was like, I'm already here. And something said, "Don't go in there." So I told her. She was pissed. We went home, because I drove, so she didn't have a choice. I'm like,
she had to go.
Something is telling me not to go. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" We left. Next morning on the news, some guys that we knew that we went to high school with were shot at the club. I know that we would have been with them, and they were shot outside of the club. So I know that they would have walked us. They were just guys' friends, but they would have walked us to our car, and where they got shot was in the middle of where the car was and where the front of the club was. I know we would have been with them. We didn't even know they were there. But as soon as we would have seen them, we would have all been together, and we would have hung out with them. So that moment, there's another situation my grandmother told me about with her years ago, and a few other times, and I said, okay, you have got to trust that inner man and your conscience. If you don't, there are consequences for that. I have paid some consequences for not listening to my inner man because of what I wanted something to be versus what it actually was. So if I had to say, the hardest lesson is, people are who they are. Situations are what they are. You really don't get to choose a lot of who you're born, where you're born into, how you're born, or whatever. But if you really dig and trust yourself, trust your inner man, that will eliminate most of the problems in your life. So I'm going to try to trust myself more.
Well, I think you're doing a great job from trying so far. And thank you so much. The final question I have for you today is 2019 Patrice Live. What do we have going on? I'm excited to hear.
So I plan actually years in advance. So I'm actually gearing up for 2020 actually. But for 2019,
that's a planner.
Yeah, I'm a planner for sure. I'm sure. But 2019 is what I said, back to the basics. I'm doing a lot of technical training, not just in performance, but in learning more about the technical aspect of performing and learning about the sound and all of that. I'm also, so last year I had a goal. I didn't reach the goal, but it was okay. I had a goal of doing all these performances. This year I'm looking at more quality over quantity. So I don't want to do as many performances, but I want the performances that I do to be immaculate. I felt like last year I had so many performances, but there should have been more performances that to me were perfect from A to Z. And that's not even just me. It could be we didn't have on the right outfits for the right this. It's strategic. And then the last goal for me is to start working possibly on another EP. I'm saying this, and I've not told my team this, so this is really exclusive.
We get all the exclusive.
Yeah. And, oh, I'm sorry. And then we're also filming the web series, so it's been a while. I held it back. We had some things on the table, and so I did not deliver the web series that I had that was following my life and all the craziness that has happened since the last season. So we're gearing up to release that web series or whatever, so people can see an update of my actual personal life and be like, oh, that makes sense. What was happening? Oh my gosh, all in your business. So yeah.
Well, very nice. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for my gift.
Oh,
I'm
you're
so
very
appreciative.
welcome.
I'm moving soon, so I have a new mug, you know, so you can come over and have some tea. Yeah.
Can you let everyone at home know where they can follow you, your handle, your website, and all those things, so you can, well, you already have more than enough.
Yeah.
You never can have.
I always need more followers. I have
more fans.
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram at Patrice_live, PATRICE_LIVE. You can also visit my website, PatriceLIVE.com. And then if you want to get text alerts about my my upcoming shows and appearances, you can text Patrice Live to 727272. And it will send us a message. And we do only a monthly update. Don't worry, I'm not texting y'all all night, hey, what you doing? It's usually just an alert that shows you what's coming up for me. So yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time.
Story time. Who got the tea? Who got the tea? Yeah. Story.